Today, we're diving deep into one of the most crucial yet often overlooked parts of any neural network. We're talking about the secret spark, the tiny little switch that actually lets AI learn, the activation function.
So let me start with a question for you. Why would a neural network with 100 layers, a really deep network, be totally and completely useless? It seems impossible, right? More layers should mean it's smarter. But you see, without one very specific ingredient, a 100-layer network is no better than a network with a single layer.
So, picture this. You're building a neural network. You're stacking layers one on top of the other. And in each layer, the neurons are doing their job. They're taking in data, they're multiplying it by weights, adding a little bias. But then what? Well, if that's all that happens, your network is stuck in something I call the linear trap.
And here it is. This is the punchline. Without that one secret ingredient, your entire massive 100-layer network, well, it just collapses. Mathematically, it's nothing more than a simple linear equation. It can only see the world in straight lines. So forget about it recognizing your face in a photo or understanding language. It's basically just a glorified calculator, and it's not truly learning anything complex at all.
So how do we spring the trap? We do it with this, the activation function. You can think of it as a little mathematical switch or a gatekeeper at the end of every single neuron. It makes a decision. Should this neuron fire or not, and how strongly? And that one tiny, non-linear step is what gives the network the power to understand the messy, complex, and definitely not straight-line patterns of our world.
And the whole process inside a neuron is actually pretty straightforward. First, it sums up all the inputs it gets. Then it adds a bias. And then for the grand finale, step 3, it passes that number through the activation function. That's the moment of decision. And that decision is what turns a boring old sum into a meaningful signal that gets passed on to the next layer.
Now, not all activation functions are the same. Oh no, they each have their own quirks, their own personalities, and they're good at different things. So let's think of them as a team of specialists, the decision makers of the network. Let's meet a few of the most famous ones.
First up, we've got the undisputed champion of the modern era, the one everybody uses by default. It's called ReLU, and its rule is just beautifully simple. If an input is positive, let it pass right on through. If it's negative, just make it 0. End of story.
And the math behind it is just as elegant. All it's doing is taking the maximum of 0 and whatever the input number is. Because it's so simple, it is blazing fast to compute. And when you're dealing with networks that have millions of these things, that speed is a really, really big deal.
So yeah, ReLU is our all-or-nothing decider. It's fast, it's efficient, it just works. But it does have a bit of a dark side. If a neuron only ever gets negative inputs, it's just going to keep outputting 0. It gets stuck, it effectively dies, and it stops learning altogether.
All right, let's turn back the clock a bit and look at one of the originals, the Sigmoid function. Before ReLU came along and stole the show, Sigmoid was the go-to. Its special trick is to take any number you give it, big or small, positive or negative, and gently squash it down into a nice, smooth range between 0 and 1. This is the little formula that creates that famous S-shaped curve. And because the output is always somewhere between 0 and 1, it's absolutely perfect for thinking about probabilities. Like, is this email spam? A 1. Or not spam? A 0.
That's why we call Sigmoid our probability specialist. It's still super useful in the final layer for yes or no questions. But here's the catch. In really deep networks, it runs into a huge problem. You see those flat parts at the top and bottom of the S-curve? Well, in those zones, the learning signal, the gradient, gets squashed down to almost nothing. Learning just grinds to a halt. It's a famous problem called the vanishing gradient.
Now meet Tanh. It's basically Sigmoid's cooler cousin. It has that same S shape, but instead of squashing everything between 0 and 1, it squashes it between -1 and 1. And that one little difference, it turns out, is pretty important.
So let's call Tanh the balance judge. Because its output is centered around 0, it actually helps the network learn a bit more efficiently than Sigmoid in many cases. But it's still a member of the same family. It has those same flat ends, which means, you guessed it, it also suffers from that nasty vanishing gradient problem.
Okay, so we've met a few of our key players. We have ReLU, Sigmoid, Tanh. So how on earth do you choose the right one for the job? Well, like any good tool, it all comes down to knowing its strengths and its weaknesses.
And this table is a great way to see it all at a glance.
You've got ReLU, which is super fast but can sometimes die. You've got Sigmoid, which is perfect for probabilities but can cause gradients to vanish. And you've got Tanh, which is nicely zero-centered but also struggles with vanishing gradients. You see, it's all about trade-offs.
This really gets to the heart of the matter. With Sigmoid and Tanh, the deeper your network gets, the more that learning signal can fade away until it's just a whisper. But look at ReLU. As long as the input is positive, the gradient is a solid one. The signal just flows right through, which is exactly what you need to train those super deep networks effectively.
So what about that whole dying ReLU problem we mentioned? Well, of course, some clever engineers came up with a fix for that, too. It's called Leaky ReLU, and it's a simple but brilliant tweak to make sure our neurons never get permanently stuck in the off position. Just look at how simple this is. Instead of forcing all negative values to be a hard 0, we just multiply them by a tiny number, like 0.01. It gives them a little leak. That tiny slope on the negative side means the neuron always has some gradient, a little lifeline to make sure it stays alive and can keep on learning. Okay, so we've talked about all the functions that do the heavy lifting inside the hidden layers of the network, but what about the very end, the final layer that actually has to give us our answer? For that, we need one last specialist.
And that specialist is Softmax. Its job is to be the final judge. It looks at the network's last set of scores, a raw score for cat, another for dog, another for bird, and it transforms all of them into a clean set of probabilities that conveniently add up to 100%.
And this is the result. It's so clear. Instead of just some random scores, Softmax gives us a beautiful, easy-to-read probability distribution. The network isn't just saying, I think it's a cat. It's saying, I am 85% confident this is a cat, 10% confident it's a dog, and 5% confident it's a bird. It gives us the network's final confident verdict.
So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway here? The real magic of AI isn't some single super complex formula. It's actually the opposite. It's the power of millions upon millions of incredibly simple, nonlinear decisions all working together that lets this amazing, complex intelligence emerge.
Every time you see an AI that can generate art or drive a car or talk to you, just remember, at its very core, it's powered by these humble little mathematical functions. They really are the fundamental building blocks of this entire revolution.